The UK's December budget deficit hit £17.8 billion. Trump backs Elon Musk buying TikTok after the app's temporary shutdown. And DP World says non-Israeli ships may return to the Red Sea in 2 weeks, causing freight costs to drop 25%. Welcome to the Qnews Economic Bulletin. I'm Henny Saif, and we'll bring you the latest developments shaping the global economy, from key market trends and financial updates to regional economic highlights and forecasts. We provide essential news and analysis to keep you informed. Welcome back. We'll start in Europe, where European Central Bank policymakers signaled readiness for further interest rate cuts, with a reduction next week considered almost certain. ECB President Christine Lagarde stressed a cautious, data-driven approach, citing weak growth and inflation concerns. French Central Bank Chief François Villeroy predicted the deposit rate could drop to 2% by summer, while Deutsche Central Bank head Klaus Knot backed cuts on January 30th and March 6th. Greek Central Bank Governor Yanis Stouromaras favored gradual reductions, while Spain's José Luis Escrivá called for data-dependent decisions. The Office for National Statistics has reported that Britain's December budget deficit surged to £17.8 billion, exceeding forecast due to high debt interest costs and a one-off military housing purchase. The figure is £10 billion higher than a year ago. With public borrowing totalling £129.9 billion for the fiscal year, the government is overshooting the Office for Budget Responsibility's forecast by £4 billion. Finance Minister Rachel Reeves pledged adherence to fiscal rules, despite challenges from slowing economic growth and rising debt servicing costs. Reeves, speaking at Davos, emphasized that economic growth remains her top priority.
When the last government faced difficult decisions about whether to support infrastructure investment, the answer always seemed to be no. And we can't carry on like that, because if we do, we'll miss out on crucial investment here into Britain. So number one mission of this government is to grow the economy. You've already seen a number of decisions, including on Stansted and City Airport, on energy projects, on transport infrastructure.
President Vladimir Putin has said Russia's government and central bank need to reach high inflation. To react to high inflation. Putin added the government and central bank needs to achieve a moderate rate of price growth and avoid imbalances in the economy. Statistical data reported that Russian consumer prices accelerated by 9.52% last year, compared to 7.42% in 2023, making the 2024 inflation rate the fourth highest in the last 15 years. In Asia, China's central bank has announced that foreign financial institutions in select free trade zones, including Beijing and Shanghai, will receive the same treatment as domestic entities when offering new financial services. The guidelines, issued by 5 government agencies, also aim to simplify fund transfers for foreign investments, enhancing inbound and outbound capital flows in these regions. China has announced its plan to direct major state-owned insurers and commercial insurance funds to increase investments in the A-share market, aiming to revive its struggling stock market. A joint plan from 6 financial regulators emphasizes boosting equity investments by state insurers, with long-term performance evaluations prioritizing 3 to 5-year cycles. The measures also involve expanding the National Social Security Fund and pension fund investments in equities. Authorities introduced 800 billion yuan in swap and relending schemes to support capital markets in recent months. Still in China, the Central Committee of the Communist Party and the State Council said that China has unveiled a comprehensive plan to advance rural revitalization and agricultural modernization by 2027, aiming for full modernization by 2035. The plan emphasizes national food security, poverty prevention, and rural industry development. It also aims to leverage science, technology, and reforms to boost rural incomes and improve governance. Key targets include enhancing food security, developing sustainable rural industries, and transforming rural areas into attractive places to live and work. US President Donald Trump has threatened new tariffs, including 25% duties on Canada and Mexico and 10% on Chinese imports, citing drug trafficking through US borders. Speaking at the White House, Trump criticized the European Union for trade surpluses, warning of potential tariffs. Trump explained the reason for the move is because drugs are being sent from China to the United States via Mexico and Canada. Trump also signed a memorandum ordering reviews of trade deficits and practices, fueling market uncertainty despite earlier stock gains.
Yeah, we'll look into that. We're talking to Zelensky. We're going to be talking with President Putin very soon.
For its part, China reaffirmed its stance against trade wars, stating there are no winners after US President Donald Trump proposed a 10% tariff on Chinese imports. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning emphasized China's commitment to safeguarding its national interests during a Wednesday briefing. Trump, who avoided immediate tariff actions upon taking office, reiterated threats of 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and duties on China and the European Union, setting a deadline of February 1st. Moreover, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has stated that his government is ready to handle any outcome if Donald Trump imposes tariffs on Canada. Trudeau described Trump as a skilled negotiator who keeps partners off balance. He also emphasized the U.S. prosperity will depend on Canadian resources. This comes after Trump suggested that tariffs on Mexican and Canadian exports could begin in February.
Businesses and homes. Of America's top 5 trading partners,
French government spokesperson Sophie Primas has described France's relations with U.S. President Donald Trump as transactional. Primas stated that Europe and the U.S. have no interest in a trade escalation and announced a new phase of negotiations with the U.S. She emphasized the need for Europe to match U.S. resolve and assert its power. Trump, who has also threatened tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, criticized Europe's trade surpluses with the U.S. on Tuesday. On a different note, Panama's President José Raúl Mulino has dismissed U.S. President Donald Trump's claim to take back the Panama Canal and asked the U.S. President to be serious. Speaking after a World Economic Forum panel on Latin America, Mulino reiterated Panama's stance, stating that the Panama Canal belongs to Panama and will continue to belong to Panama. Trump, invoking manifest destiny in his inaugural speech on Monday, hinted at reclaiming the canal but provided no timeline or details. Critics, including allies in Latin America, expressed alarm at his refusal to rule out military force. In an official move, Panama has filed a formal complaint to the United Nations, condemning U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to seize the Panama Canal. The Panamanian government referenced the UN Charter, urging UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres to refer the matter to the Security Council. Trump's remarks, made during his inaugural speech on January 20th, reiterated his claim that the U.S. gave the canal to Panama, but now intended to take it back, citing China's growing influence around the waterway. And joining us now from Cairo is the economist Mr. Abu Bakr Deeb to discuss the latest developments related to U.S. President Donald Trump's statements on tariffs and the Panama Canal. Welcome, Mr. Deeb, to the Qnews Economic Bulletin. Let's start off with really trying to know how might Trump's rhetoric on imposing tariffs impact the U.S.'s relations and relationships with major trading partners such as China, the European Union and Canada.
At the outset, welcome to you and to dear viewers. I'm happy to be with you. And at my opinion, the inauguration speech of President Donald Trump was an earthquake, not just to planet Earth, but also to Mars, because these statements are very important and very serious and dangerous for the biggest economy in the world related to immigration and economy and supply chains. These supply chains were disrupted and will be further affected because of these statements. He promised within the U.S. policy to impose tariffs and customs not just to his enemies but also to his friends and allies, including the European Union and Canada and Mexico, in addition to his longtime nemesis China. He also threatened Russia if they do not commit to the peace negotiations in Ukraine, he will impose further sanctions. He comes with a sword of the custom tariffs. He wants, as he said, that he wants to build the U.S. economic power again, posing a lot of restrictions on imports to the U.S. from all around the world to pave the way for American companies to produce for self-sufficiency. This will actually reflect very negatively on global markets, as the oil trade was highly disrupted after President Trump said that he will invest in fossil fuels and he will look for oil again in the U.S., then, as well as his withdrawal from the Paris Agreement, and he will withdraw from investing in green and renewable energy, and he will go back to traditional power sources, and they have a lot of reserve to be an exporting company, which disrupted the oil market globally.
Well, Mr. Deeb, could these continuous threats of tariffs disrupt the ongoing negotiations under the existing trade agreements, such as the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement?
Of course, the USMCA agreement, named as NAFTA, it is a group agreement for the preferential trade between the US and Canada and Mexico. There is a high volume of trade exchange between the three countries, including 125 US dollars exports from the US to Canada. When they impose tariffs on these exports, it will cost the Canadian economy $450 million, which is a lot of money for Canada, which is, of course, a very large company. They have the third world oil reserve, and they have 20% of the world fresh water. It is a very important and strong economic state, but with these tariffs and duties, it will be highly impacted. 25% tariff will impact the Canadian economy, as well as Mexico. Also Germany. Germany will lose the 1% of its GDP because of these new tariffs to be implemented during the next few weeks or months. A lot of states such as France and the UK will be impacted because they have a large volumes of trade with the US. We can also talk about China, and other states will deal with the US with the same treatment. They will also impose the tariff, which will harm the international trade arena and will disrupt the trade movement in the world, disrupting supply chains, and we will see again high inflation rates, as well as the restricted cash policies. The US will benefit partially, but they will also suffer from negative effects such as high inflation and restricting the cash policies.
Mr. Deeb, now talking about the Panama Canal, how could Trump's statements of taking back the Panama Canal affect the relationships between the US and Panama and other Latin American nations?
This is part of the Trump statements, as he wants to be an empire for the US, not just a president. He wants the annexation of Canada to the United States, as well as the Panama Canal, and also a Danish island. All of these expansion plans are very controversial. And talking about the Panama Canal, it is 100 years old canal, which is highly important to Canada. It is 23% of the total revenue for Canada, and it makes Canada the most stable state in Middle America because of the foreign currency the canal introduces to the national income of Panama. So, and that's why Panama will not leave this Panama smoothly. The US, of course, is a very strong power, and it will be a conflict, but there are international resolutions that would rule such conflict with the presence of the United Nations and the Security Council. He wants to make the changes to the entire region, which will require global consensus to be passed through by the Security Council and the United Nations. It's a significant also. This Panama Canal is significant to the United States. Trump accuses the Panama Canal of high duties and imposed on the US ships passing through the canal. He accuses Panama of a lot, and these will be the excuses for taking over the canal to pave the way for negotiations to reduce the duties imposed on U.S. ships
Yes.
to pass from the Atlantic Ocean through also the Danish island, and the EU states opposed these measures and these statements. We have seen German and French and British statements
Yes.
rejecting the Trump desires and hopes. They are not final decisions yet. Also, Democratic officials expressed their rejection and unacceptance to the
Yes, we
dreams
will
of
definitely be following and seeing how he follows through with these claims and promises. That was our economist, Mr. Abu Bakr Idib. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And in the tech sector, US President Donald Trump has revealed a private sector investment of up to $500 billion for AI infrastructure, targeting global leadership in the technology. OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle announced a joint venture, Stargate, to build 20 data centers, creating over 100,000 US jobs. An initial $100 billion will be deployed immediately, with full investment spread over 4 years. The initiative follows Trump's rollback of AI regulations introduced by former President Joe Biden. The project aims to advance artificial general intelligence and address power demands from AI-driven data centers.
In together, that's a massive group of talent and money. Together, these
Donald Trump has said he would support Elon Musk purchasing TikTok, following the app's temporary shutdown after a law requiring its sale or the ban took effect. The law, citing national security concerns, mandates TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance to sell its US operations. Trump, who signed an executive order delaying the law's enforcement by 75 days, suggested a buyer should give half to the United States. TikTok remains unavailable for download in the US. Musk, who has opposed a ban on free speech grounds, noted the imbalance as TikTok operates in the US while his platform, X, is barred in China.
We'll give you the permit, and they'll have a great partner, the United States, and they'll have something that's actually more valuable because they have the ultimate.
However, CEO Talal Ibrahim Al Mayman of Saudi Prince Al Walid bin Talal's Kingdom Holding has expressed interest in investing in TikTok if Elon Musk or others acquire it. Kingdom Holding, with stakes in Musk's X and XAI, is partly owned by Saudi Arabia's PIF. Al Mayman highlighted KHC's diverse portfolio, while reiterating its cautious stance on cryptocurrency, aligning with Warren Buffett's principles. He also revealed that low-cost airline Flynas, in which KHC has a substantial stake, is close to receiving regulatory approval for a public listing in Saudi Arabia. On another note, DP World's Deputy CEO, Yuvraj Narayan, has said during the Davos World Economic Forum that ships not linked to Israel may resume using the Red Sea within 2 weeks, potentially reducing freight prices by up to 25%. Narayan highlighted that the return to the shorter Red Sea and Suez Canal route following recent Houthi attacks could lower global freight rates within 2 to 3 months. Currently, major shipping companies are rerouting via Africa, tying up 30% more capacity. Houthis, who have conducted over 100 ship attacks since 2023, announced plans to restrict future assaults to Israel-linked vessels and consider halting all actions upon a Gaza ceasefire. In commodities, Citibank increased its 2025 oil price forecast, citing geopolitical risks linked to Russia and Iran, but projected easing prices in the year's second half. The bank expects Brent crude to average $67 per barrel in 2025, up from a previous estimate of $62, and West Texas Intermediate crude to average $63. Quarterly Brent prices are revised to $75 in the first quarter, $68 in the second quarter, $63 in the third quarter and $60 in the fourth. Citi said the timing and nature of President Trump's actions regarding Iran and Russia could be defining features of the oil market and pricing during 2025. It forecasts a surplus of 0.8 million barrels per day for the year. Oil prices held near a one-week low on Wednesday as the market considers how U.S. President Donald Trump's proposed tariffs could affect global economic growth and demand for energy. President Donald Trump's proposed tariffs and the potential impact of the national energy emergency he declared on his first day in office. Brent futures fell 0.2% to $79.10 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was 0.3% lower at $75.58 a barrel. Prices of safe haven gold rose to a near three-month high on Wednesday, boosted by uncertainty surrounding U.S. President Donald Trump's policies and softer dollar. Spot gold added 0.3% to $2,753.79 an ounce. The price hit its highest since October 31st, earlier this session, in the session, where they hit their all-time high of $2,790.15. U.S. gold futures gained 0.2% to $2,764.80. In the global markets, shares recorded a semi-collective rise on Wednesday, powered by a rise in technology stocks after U.S. President Donald Trump announced mammoth spending plans for artificial intelligence infrastructure, while the dollar sagged to a two-week low as tariffs were delayed. France's CAC 40 rose 0.86% to 7,827.19 points. Germany's DAX added 1.01%. Britain's FTSE 100 inched down 0.04%. The future for the S&P 500 was up 0.83%, and that for the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.25%. In Asia, Hong Kong's Hang Seng dropped 1.63%, while the Shanghai Composite went down 0.89%. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225 index was up 1.6% after Trump announced a joint venture that aims to invest up to $500 billion in infrastructure related to AI. Elsewhere, South Korea's Kospi added 1.2% and Australia's S&P ASX 200 rose 0.3%. These are all the news we have for now, but here's a reminder of the stories we've been covering. The UK's December budget deficit hit £17.8 billion. Trump backs Elon Musk buying TikTok after the app's temporary shutdown. And DP World says non-Israeli ships may return to the Red Sea in 2 weeks, causing freight costs to drop 25%. This concludes our economic bulletin for today, but please don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at QNewsEGY to stay informed. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.